I've been meaning to do this for a few weeks now, and in light of the show on Tuesday and a current global mind control program being fronted by some child from Sweden who is miraculously allowed to skip school, travel the world, talk at high-end events with no backing, we are led to believe, like that ever happens, called Greta Thunberg. So here is a document from 1960 from Langley's own files that tells you all you need to know about climate change. You know, to think this was in planning 60 years ago, next year, should alert you to the advancements made in that time. Introduction. Control of the weather environment involves the complete spectrum of weather phenomena. As a function of the time and space scale associated with such weather phenomena, different types of human activities are affected, ranging from those of the individuals through the complex operation of large industrial and military organizations and the activities of entire societies. The concept of weather control has meaning only when it's discussed in terms of the specific operations for which it is to be used. 1960. The techniques which are and can be used for control of the weather environment vary with the scale of the operation considered and with the specific goals which are to be achieved by such weather control. Large-scale climate control requires the modification of the global weather patterns by altering and interfering with the large-scale physical processes which are associated with the characteristic motions of the scale of the general circulation of the atmosphere. Many proposals have been made regarding means of altering the various physical processes in the atmosphere which might affect these large-scale atmospheric circulations. This is the trade winds and all that type. Most of these proposals have never been subjected to detailed scientific feasibility analysis. There you go again. What they've already said there is they're already doing it, and yet they've made no scientific tests of the implications of it. These proposals fall into several general categories. In general, they are categorized by whether they seek to alter processes associated with the energy and momentum of moisture balance of the atmosphere. For example, proposals have been made to alter the energy balance of large areas by altering the surface albedo. Proposals of this nature involve changing surface albedos by the use of substances of appropriate absorptive and reflective characteristics which differ from the natural surface. An example is the proposal that polar areas be covered with layers of soot. Yes, they've been doing that. Other proposals are made to alter the energy balance of the atmosphere by injecting dust and other particulate matter into the high atmosphere, which might alter the input of solar energy to the atmosphere. Chemtrails. Proposals for altering the normal energy cycle of the atmosphere extend also to the alteration of the chemistry of the atmospheric substances, especially in the high atmosphere, which might also affect the radiational balance. In other words, they were messing with the upper atmosphere. Remember all the fuss in the 70s about the ozone, and 80s, the ozone layer disappearing? There's your answer. Proposals are made to alter the moisture balance of the atmosphere by the alteration of the evaporation mechanisms. These proposals suggest spreading various kinds of film upon large bodies of water, thus cutting down evaporation, in other words causing drought, and interfering with the moisture cycle of the atmosphere. Furthermore, when films are spread upon surfaces to alter their evaporation potential, the mechanical effects of the surface are also altered, which might affect the momentum balance of the atmosphere. Proposals are also made for altering the momentum balance of the atmosphere. These proposals generally involve a modification of the surface frictional stresses. That's the fault lines. By changing the frictional drag coefficients over large areas of surface. Technological developments of the past 2 decades have provided the understanding, the techniques and the means necessary for an assault on the problems of climate control. Control of any kind requires capabilities in all 3 of these areas. Meteorology is just now beginning to acquire such capabilities. Achievement of an understanding of the large-scale physical processes of the atmosphere has been a continuing process over many decades. However, during the past several years, the systematic exploitation of observational information on a global scale has led to a coherent description of the manner in which the large-scale physical processes in the atmosphere operate to provide for the maintenance of the global circulations against the dissipative effects of friction, and the manner in which they operate to transform the solar energy into kinetic energy of the organised large-scale atmospheric circulations. Theoretical studies have led to an understanding of the reasons why the atmospheric physical processes operate in the observed manner. In combination, these studies have led to the formation of the first consistent rudimentary theories for the causes of the fluctuation of the large-scale atmospheric circulations. The attainment of such a theory holds broad implications for the manner in which climate control studies can be conducted. Much as the biologist must first achieve an understanding of the causes and processes involved in the generation and communication of diseases before he can consider the problem of disease control. So meteorologists must achieve an understanding of the causes and processes involved in the fluctuations of the atmospheric circulations which control the regional and global climate. While the meteorologist's understanding is by no means perfect and much remains to be done, at least the first and most necessary level of understanding has been reached. Given such understanding, the meteorologist must have the capability of simulating and testing the natural phenomena he must control. In other physical sciences, this is a relatively straightforward matter of laboratory simulation. The circulation phenomena of relevance in global climate are not so readily amenable to laboratory simulation. So in other words, they live tested. Fortunately, simple models of the atmospheric circulations of a mathematical nature can and have been intensively studied by meteorologists in connection with the theatrical studies of the general circulation and in connection with the problems of numerical weather forecasting. That's called guessing. The indispensable tool which has generated such intensive interest in such mathematical formulations of atmospheric models has been the high-speed electronic computer, 1960, which has become the laboratory of the meteorologist. Rapid technological advances in the data processing and computer art now make it feasible to consider the treatment of simple mathematical models of the atmosphere of considerable sophistication, in which important physical processes can be simulated. Such computing machines now place the meteorologist in the enviable position of other scientists in that the effects of various physical processes can be studied under controlled conditions. It has now become feasible not only to speculate about consequences of human intervention in the atmospheric processes. It's not us that's interfering, it's them. But also simulate, test and study these consequences. The meteorologist has also attempted to imitate his more fortunate scientific brethren by constructing laboratory models of large-scale atmospheric and also oceanic circulations. And he messed with the oceans and he messed with the air. He has been able to attain considerable success in producing reasonable hydrodynamic analogues of these large-scale atmospheric motions, which are amenable to study under controlled laboratory conditions. The second tool for simulation and testing purposes provides the meteorologist with another indispensable capability which was unavailable just a decade ago. Much of the well-justified skepticism about the feasibility of climate control has centered on the available human means for exercising necessary control. All there in one sentence. While there are many conceivable methods for control of climate, all of them involve the expenditure of energy in one form or another. Even the vulnerable instabilities of the atmosphere, which one would hope to uncover through a systematic program of climate control studies, the so-called trigger mechanisms, nice MK Ultra term that, will probably require access to energy sources of immense magnitude for proper exploitation. In this atomic age, we now have available truly immense potential sources of power, and it's highly likely that our lifetime will see the harnessing of hydrogen fusion power, which will provide almost limitless sources of energy. 1960, they were talking about hydrogen fusion power, which would have limitless sources of energy 60 years ago. And we're still relying on tech from 120, 30 years ago. They've got hydrogen fusion, they've got lots of other fusion as well. They just won't give it to the public. Thus, it's no longer possible to relegate considerations of climate control to the fantasies of science fiction on this account. It has now become necessary for us to recognise the realities and potentialities of modern science for what they are and what they can mean for the possibilities of climate control. Civil and military implications. The impasse of the successful achievement of methods for the control of climate upon all types of human activities confounds the imagination. Slight amelioration of adverse precipitation or temperature regimes could result in the reclamation of vast territories for agriculture and many other types of human activities. Didn't work that way, did it? Is something that they knew 60 years ago. Desert areas which cover a large fraction of the Earth's surface are known in many cases to require only slight changes in moisture regimes to make them suitable for large-scale agricultural production. Like I said, you can change the desert back to an oasis fairly easily. They're just not interested. Was it Gaddafi who built a whole water plant? And what did the US military do? Bomb it. I know they're planting loads of trees in the desert at the moment in Africa. I think it's a few million trees, if memory serves me correctly, which will induce moisture. That once it starts working, they'll send in the clowns again and smash it all. That's what they do. Small changes in circulation regimes could bring about the moderation of severe temperature climates to yield additional areas suitable for human habitation. Severe temperature climates. Such changes in circulation regimes can also affect the normal paths of destructive storms like hurricanes, such that their destruction energies could be dissipated in regions far removed from major human activities. So they knew back in the 60s they could disrupt hurricanes. So if they can disrupt it, they can drive it. Changes in atmospheric circulation regimes would have marked effects upon oceanic circulations, with the consequent changes in the abundance and location of fertile fishing grounds. Moderate changes in climate characteristics will have serious repercussions for all aspects of industrial activity. Militarily, a climatic control capability raises the possibility of a total new type of warfare. This type of warfare can be termed geophysical warfare, in which our ability to control the weather environment can be used as a weapon. This geophysical weapon will be unique in character in that it can be used in both hot and cold struggles. They have what's called a hot war and a cold war. Both are fake. It can be used to affect any enemy adversely or benefit a friend. As a function of the nature of the control capability, the use of such a weapon could be a determining factor in the success of national military operations. As a hot war weapon, it would be best to have a strong control capability for specific areas and specific periods of time. Since we are talking about intermediate and long period climate control, this would imply a conflict of considerable duration. I told you that you don't go into regions for one or two reasons. There's always more. That tells you. Maybe this would imply a conflict of considerable duration to control their climate. Was it Afghanistan 19 years, 18 years, Iraq 16 years? Getting the picture now? Specific military consequences of such a control capability would be in the potential for destruction of an enemy's food production capability, thereby weaken his total military power, and also in the derangements of transportation systems and other industrial activities which might result from a marked change in climatic conditions. As a Cold War tool, the capability of climate control would place in the hands of this government a tool for ameliorating the weather conditions in friendly and uncommitted nations as a means of strengthening bonds with that country. So if you don't do this, we're going to mess with your weather. That's what they're saying there. Conversely, as a Cold War weapon, a climate control capability provides for a unique surreptitious means for weakening a potential enemy so that he does not have the capability to wage a hot war. The general study of the feasibility of climate control, independent of the use of this capability in either hot or cold conflicts, provides necessary national insurance if other nations achieve a control capability. Such a capability in either friendly or unfriendly hands represents a threat of weather conditions that might adversely affect the welfare of our nation. Like no other nation's important, it seems. As an absolute necessary countermeasure, this country must have within its scientific arsenal the knowledge of how to combat any such attempts to control by any other nations. Dear me. Failure to undertake a consistent program at this time might provide the knowledge necessary to combat such climate control operations on the part of other nations and could lead to another Sputnik situation. And there you have it. There's a load of technical BS that follows that. But it's unbelievable. This is Langley again. How many more times is that 3 letters going to come up involved in skullduggery?